Have you ever felt like life was unfair? Like you were doing everything right, but still everything went wrong? If so, you're not alone. In fact, there's an entire book of the Bible dedicated to this very struggle. Today, we're diving into the book of Job, a story that challenges everything we think we know about God's justice. Picture this: a righteous man, blessed with wealth, family, and health. Suddenly, he loses it all, not because he sinned, but because he was righteous. It sounds backwards, doesn't it? That's the story of Job, and it's a tale that has puzzled believers for centuries. The book of Job. What if God's justice isn't what you expect? Let's start by getting to know Job. The Bible describes him as blameless and upright, one who feared God and turned away from evil. Job 1:1. This wasn't just a good guy. This was the cream of the crop when it came to righteousness. So much so that God himself bragged about Job in heaven's courtroom. But here's where things take a turn. God allows Satan to test Job's faith by stripping away everything he holds dear. It's a divine confidence in Job's integrity that sets this whole story in motion. This challenges the common idea that prosperity always equals God's favor. Job's story starts not with punishment, but with a cosmic bet on his faithfulness. Imagine waking up one day to find everything you've worked for gone. That's what happened to Job. Raiders stole his livestock, fire consumed his sheep, storms killed his children. In a single day, Job went from having it all to having nothing. His response: "The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Job 1:21. Now, let's pause for a moment. How many of us could say that in the face of such loss? Think about modern believers facing cancer diagnoses, sudden layoffs, or tragic accidents. How do we still bless God when life feels like a curse? Enter Job's friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. They represent a view that's still common today, the idea that you reap what you sow. They believed God punishes the wicked and rewards the righteous. So in their minds, Job must have done something to deserve this suffering, but Job maintains his innocence. He cries out, "Make me understand how I have gone wrong." Job 6:24. This reflects a struggle many face today. How often do we see people in church judging others who are going through hard times, assuming there must be some hidden sin? As Job's suffering continues, he begins to challenge God's justice. He asks, "Why do the wicked live on, growing old and increasing in power?" Job 21:7. It's a raw, honest question that many of us have probably thought but been afraid to voice. Here's a key insight: wrestling with God is not the end of faith, it's part of it. Think about a Christian who's just lost a loved one, crying out in doubt yet still clinging to belief. That's the kind of faith we see in Job, not blind acceptance, but passionate engagement with God. After 37 chapters of debate and lament, God finally speaks. But his response isn't what we might expect. Instead of answering Job's questions, God asks his own. "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth?" Job 38:4. God doesn't explain why Job suffered. He reveals his own majesty and mystery. The message: God isn't unjust, he's beyond our human categories of fairness. His ways are higher than our ways, his thoughts higher than our thoughts. Job's response to this divine revelation is profound. He says, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." Job 40:5. Job repents, not for any sin he committed, but for misunderstanding God's nature. He realizes that God's justice isn't transactional, it's relational. This is a crucial point for us today. Faith doesn't always give us reasons for our suffering, but it can reveal God's presence in the midst of it. The story doesn't end there. God restores Job, giving him twice as much as he had before. But notice this: God also rebukes Job's friends for misrepresenting him. Their simplistic theology of karma-like retribution was wrong. What can we learn from this? God may redeem our losses without fully explaining them. He values our integrity more than our comfort. And sometimes, he corrects our theology through our trials. So why does this ancient story still matter today? Because it addresses the universal human experiences of suffering, silence, and doubt. It challenges the prosperity gospel that's so prevalent in some churches. It shows us that God is more interested in our character than our comfort. For anyone who's ever felt unseen or unheard by God, Job's story says, God sees, God hears, Even when we can't sense His presence, He's there. In conclusion, the book of Job teaches us that divine justice is not always immediate, but it is always intimate. If you've ever wrestled with God, questioning His ways or His goodness, know that you're not alone. Job was the blueprint for this kind of raw, honest faith. So here's my challenge to you. In the comments, write this simple prayer: God, help me trust you even when I don't understand. Let us build a community of believers who aren't afraid to wrestle with the hard questions of faith. If this video has helped you see the book of Job in a new light, hit that subscribe button for more deep Bible insight with Bible System. And please, share this with someone you know who might be struggling to understand God's ways. Sometimes, knowing we're not alone in our questions can be the first step towards deeper faith. Remember, faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting the one who does, even when life doesn't make sense. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep growing in your faith.